Metro West.
Hey folks, Joe Mangiacotti from the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you, talk radio is the immune system to the partisan, bias, political rhetoric attacking us on a daily basis. Get inoculated. The Joe Mangiacotti Show is your vaccine. Join me weekend mornings, 6 to 8.
We know why you're awake. Your child is about to get their driver's license. Levante's Auto School offers 1-week driving programs to help make sure your child stays safe and focused behind the wheel.
877 drive Ed. Who's Ed?
That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
Learn to drive safely and efficiently. Visit one of our 5 locations throughout Massachusetts. Click Levante'sAutoSchool.com.
Levante's Auto School shows you how to learn the rules and keep your cool. 877 drive Ed.
Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
Golden Group Roofing is a community brand. From our Master Elite roofers and industry partners to our clients, every single person represents the Golden Group standard. We strive every day to make your home's needs a priority because Golden Group invests in you and your communities. With unbeatable craftsmanship, customer satisfaction, reasonable pricing, Golden Group Roofing stands above the rest. Having been awarded GAF Master Elite Contractor, Certainty Select Shingle Master, and GAF Energy Certified Solar, Golden Group Roofing is 100% worthy of your investment. Experience the Golden Group difference, where hands protect what matters most. Visit us at goldengrouproofing.com or call us at 508-873-1884. 508-873-1884.
Hi, this is Brian Carpenter from One Worcester Homes. We're excited to offer the strongest buyer and seller representation throughout Worcester County and all the surrounding areas. Our agents are trained better and will look out for your best interests throughout the entire transaction. To reach out to One Worcester Homes, simply find us on Facebook, type in One Worcester Homes. We look forward to the opportunity to help you and your family. And don't forget to join us the 4th Saturday of every month at 7:30 on Handling Change.
The following is a paid program. The opinions are those of the host and guests and not necessarily those of the station or its management.
This is Full Service Radio, AM 830, WCRN, Worcester, Metro West.
Crazy about high-end coffee and convenience? Perk and Parcel features Lavazza coffee for all of their espresso and drip coffee beverages. You can have all your online purchases shipped to our store, receiving a text when your packages arrive. Safe and secure. More details at perkandparcel.com.
Today, there are over 47 million Ford vehicles on the road, rolling on over 188 million tires. That's a lot of rubber to trust to anyone other than a hard-working specialist at Ford Service. No one knows your Ford better than Ford and Ford Service.
Get a $140 rebate by mail on 4 select tires when you use the Ford Service credit card at the Big Tire event. Subject to credit approval, rebate by prepaid debit card. Other tire manufacturer rebate or offer cannot be combined with Ford Service credit card rebate or offer. See your participating Ford dealer for details through 12/31/17.
The following is a paid program. The opinions are those of the host and guests and not necessarily those of the station or its management.
You are about to undertake a 2-hour experience of eye-opening, mind-expanding, revealing common sense discussion for the common sense citizen. Strap yourself in, put your trays in the upright position, remove dentures and loose jewelry, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and come along for the ride. It is time for the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN 830, and our affiliates, and streaming on the TuneIn app. It's Joe time, baby.
All right, folks, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN. Don't forget, we are live streaming on the TuneIn app. Just punch in WCRN. You can take us anywhere. It's a great way to listen. It's streaming all the time there. I listen to a lot of things on the streaming app because I like the part that when you get out of the vehicle, it just stays with you. It's cool. You can tell Alexa to play WCRN. She'll do that with no questions asked. And, of course, we're live streaming on our Facebook page at Joe Mangi Show. And that is the handle for all of our social media platforms, Joe Mangi, M-A-N-G-I, Show. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, even Parler and Rumble. So check it all out. You can, of course, join the conversation this morning at 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000. That's how you reach us here in studio. We have a text line up and running at 617-297-8388. Use it like you would anybody, how you text anyone. Just use the number 617-297-8388. And if you can't actually text, but you have a device, you can email Text Joe on the Radio. Exactly what you're doing. Text Joe on the Radio at gmail.com. It appears on the same screen. All right, we've got open lines the first hour. Well, we get open lines the whole show, but there's a few things I'm going to talk about from the nearly $2 trillion Corona, in quotes, Corona package to what's happening at CPAC. And I was actually had a request from some listeners who wanted some comments and me to talk a little bit about reparations and the U.S. slavery reparations, and we'll talk about a few key questions there and my take on that. And also coming up in hour two, I'll be joined in studio by guest Deborah Drew, who is, well, the topic is going to be, first of all, we'll talk in hour two, because you've seen these stories hitting in Connecticut. And first of all, I'm sorry. Good morning, Cam.
Good morning.
I jumped right in, man. How are you? You look good?
I'm good.
Yeah, good night's sleep at all?
Well, not so much, but that's
really?
all right.
I'm a horrible sleeper. Do you sleep well? You don't?
I just can't fall asleep early. So,
yeah.
So for getting ready for a Sunday morning at 6 a.m., not ideal.
I got it. Other than Friday and Saturday night, I'm easily up till 3. I'm just a late night person. I've always been. I think I got it from my mother, and that comes from my dad in his beginning days as a police officer. Always worked the overnight shift, and my mother, as a young, newlywed and bride, she could never sleep while he was at work. She was very nervous about a police officer husband, so my mother would stay up all night, do housework, and it wasn't uncommon for us as kids to go to bed, but wake up in our room totally rearranged. She would move our beds with her knee at night to put up new curtains, right? Redecorate the room. We'd go to bed in one room. You wake up and your room is totally redone. And that stuck over. In the years growing up, we were the house that was always up late. And for the phone could ring at midnight just as easily as it could ring at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Nobody thought anything weird of it. We were up late, played games. We were the house that, as we got to be teenagers, all the kids would hang out there late at night. So that stuck with me. It's odd for me to go to bed at 10 o'clock at night. Now, Friday and Saturday nights, I have to force myself to go to bed by, go to sleep somewhere between 11 and 12. Like last night, I think I probably fell off to sleep a little after midnight. It was up at 3:30. And that's actually almost a typical sleep night. I get 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a horrible sleeper. I don't know. It has to do with age or whatever, but I have never been a person who sleeps 8 or 9 hours in a stretch. Anyway, 508-871-7000. So you see these articles, and Cam, have you been seeing this in the news now? The Connecticut, 3 biologically born women, or I don't know if they're girls or women, they're teenagers, adolescents, who have brought suit against the Connecticut School Board because they're of the allowing biologically born males to play as females. And they're saying this is not fair because this is knocking them out of titles that they should have, which leads to scholarships and recruitment into colleges, this kind of thing, that it's adversely affecting them. So this is the suit that they brought forward. And the recent Joe Biden executive order saying that this, the Equality Act, now it comes down to Title IX, which is the whole issue of the word sex, which was put into the 64 civil rights legislation. And the thing about this word, and it was slid in there by, I believe, a Southern politician who thought that if he included the word sex into the 1964 civil rights legislation, that would kill it. The poison bullet, right? You put that in there, and there's no way that my fellow members in the Senate are going to allow the word sex into this legislation. So it was slid in there, and that one word in this civil rights legislation of 1964 is probably responsible for so much legislation because the court has repeatedly gone back to it for the equality of women in the workplace, but then it's, of course, been expanded to LGBTQ rights. And so now the Title IX, the argument is, well, if this biologically born male now presents as a woman, then they're protected under Title IX. And, of course, the biologically born females have a different view on that. So we're going to take that up in hour 2. And the reason I say that is Deb Drew is going to join us. And Deb is an activist. She's a trans rights activist, LGBTQ activist. She often is co-hosting on Radio Pride, the only LGBTQ-themed talk show of its kind, which will be coming to the station, by the way. And she actually does corporate training for this kind of thing, so she's very well versed in it. And we'll get her take on this, and we'll lay out some of the facts and get your opinion on it. But it's been in the news a lot, so we thought we'd handle that today. So that's what's coming up on today's show. All right, so we are in the last day of CPAC happening down in Florida. And I got to tell you, of course, depending what network you watch, right, is what the coverage is like. And you watch Fox, and it's a cheerleading section. You watch CNN, and they're it's funny. They actually will cut any clip they have. They cut any applause off or anything. They don't want anybody to see the response from the audience. But the theme there, and we talked about a little bit yesterday, is America First platform and getting back on track with that. Now, the big thing is Donald Trump is going to speak today. Now, the estimates are that he will be speaking around 3:40 this afternoon, kind of wrapping up the day, I think. It's very highly anticipated. This is going to really set a tone. Of course, the question out there, folks, is will he announce his candidacy for the 2024 presidential election or not? You have a lot of people waiting on that because I really, you know it, I know it. Hey, nobody is really, anybody with any political savvy at all is not going to expand their political capital in a 2024 presidential election. If Donald Trump's the Republican candidate, he's going to win it. So they're not going to run. They'll wait, and look what happens after that. So that's what they're waiting for. And if he makes it clear that he won't be, that he's just going to be, I guess the defunct or the leader of the America First movement, and kind of play the kingmaker with some of these politicians, raising money for them. We certainly didn't see, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, they didn't stay quiet, especially Barack Obama. Broke the tradition of ex-presidents not being vocal or much less critical of the incumbent president. So Barack Obama certainly has changed that. Donald Trump has changed almost everything else about the presidency, but nonetheless. So the other issue really, is being talked about is the $1.9 trillion, and I say this in air quotes, folks, here, right? Coronavirus relief package. This is loaded with so much pork and so much add-ons that have nothing to do with actual corona relief. Not to mention the fact that there are billions of dollars that just haven't been spent yet from the first packages. So it's full of pork and pet projects. They're sending billions of dollars to states that were already in debt, that were mismanaged and in trouble, so they're using it as a bailout. And it's just not right. I mean, Nancy Pelosi stuck this tunnel in there. It was $100 million, and they actually added 40%. It went through with a $140 billion tunnel. So this is just loaded with pork, and it has nothing to do with the coronavirus. And it's just, look, we know it's wrong. We see it all the time. You have to make your frustration with this, I guess, known to your politicians, to your representatives. You've got to tell them that you're not happy with this. You've got to tell them, you're going to call them. So it went through the House, it went through the Senate, it's going to the Senate. Now, the interesting thing is, and we touched on this, right? The parliamentarian who their job is this is just what they do. So the parliamentarian for the House says, hey, this $15 minimum wage per hour should not be in the budget. This doesn't make sense. It's not allowed. It's just not the way the rules work. It has to come through on its own. You can't put it in here. Nancy Pelosi puts it in there anywhere. And what do the Democrats want to do? They want to fire the parliamentarian. Isn't that indicative of the left? If the rules go against us, get rid of the rule maker. Right? That's what they said. The rules don't know. We don't play by the rules. We'll just get rid of the rule maker, the person person who points out the rule. The rule's still there. The rule didn't go away. It still shouldn't be in there. They just get rid of the person who said it shouldn't be there. If that's not Orwellian, Jesus. So the Senate, let's see what the Senate does with this. Again, we've talked about this. I've talked about this. What's your position on the $15 minimum wage? I really think that this is a state-by-state issue. $15 an hour means very different things depending on what state and even what city or town you live in a state. So those are things that should be very controlled locally. This trend of the federal government starting to control more and more of our daily lives is alarming and of great concern. So we've got CPAC wrapping up today. Donald Trump, estimated time 3:40. I don't know how tight they've been running. I haven't sat and watched this whole thing. I've checked in once in a while. Ted Cruz's speech has kind of gone viral. It's out there. I mean, he took a couple stabs at humor, and he made fun of himself. And I think that's probably was the best way to him handle the whole Cancun thing. You know, he said, "Hey, Florida's nice, but not as nice as Cancun." Joking with himself is a little bit, I think, the way to handle it. So Trump should become the symbol of freedom here, right? The America first. And for those Second Amendment people out there, we are headed for an all-out assault on the Second Amendment. It's coming. They're going to do it via ammunition, through licensing. I mean, they're proposing that everybody that has a license to carry or wants a license to carry to have to go through psychological evaluation. And then they want to interview your family members, work people, anybody there that can derail that. So anybody who just feels, who's just against the Second Amendment, that opinion's going to come out. This is not to be taken lightly. This is a scary path that we're headed down. The assault on the Second Amendment. There are moves on the First Amendment all the time. And we have the Second Amendment to ensure the First Amendment. But we've already seen big tech, in essence, wipe out conservative presence on social media. The only accounts they're leaving alone are the liberal or progressive voices. And how deep are they going to go? We don't know how deep they're going. I mean, they started with the President of the United States, and they've been moving on down. Candace Owens has a lawsuit with Facebook right now, and there are people who can sign in on that. But you've got House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, one of the few Republicans from California. He's out there. He's talking about the swamp is back. $1.9 trillion pandemic relief package. It's heavy on pork, heavy on pet projects, and it's really a non-COVID-19 spending package. It caters to the special interest allies. So his speech, he really took it to task, Kevin McCarthy. He's a guy that has been very vocal in the last year or so, right? I mean, maybe his aspirations are going to be a little beyond the United States Senate. He said, "I'm about to say something that the American people don't want to hear. The swamp is back." The amount of money that actually goes to defeating the virus is less than 9%. And that is crazy, right? On its own, why would that pass if it's supposed to be a corona relief package with 9% actually going to directly corona issues? So 9% COVID health, and the other 91%, union pensions, blue state bailouts, Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is getting a ton of money. Universities like Harvard. I mean, these are universities with tens or hundreds of billions with a B dollars in their endowments. The National Endowment for the Arts is receiving money. Schumer's got that bridge in California. Pelosi's got her tunnel. That's where 91%, what they're calling the Pelosi payoff, is. And 9%, that's it, going to actual COVID-19 relief. And that's just the way the system works. It's got to be changed. I wonder if the Founding Fathers ever knew just how much pork and pet projects would get into legislation if they would have changed the parliamentary process in the early days. Don't call it a rescue bill. Don't call it a relief bill. That's what McCarthy said. For the American people, it is a loser. Now, the package does include the $1,400 direct payments to most Americans and $20 billion national plan to vaccinate against the virus. $270 million for arts and humanities, $200 million for museums and libraries, $100 million for the electric train in Silicon Valley. Plus, it's a blue state bailout to the tune of $350 billion. That's a lot of money going to mostly Democratic states that they were in trouble before this hit. Even worse than the non-COVID related spending are the policies that would stall our reopening and it'd block rehiring and slow down the recovery for American families. One of the provisions in the bill would kill 1.4 million jobs on its own, and that would be that $15 an hour minimum wage an hour. Now, they talk about millions of people would get a pay raise, but you're losing nearly 1.5 million jobs. Gone. Out of it. So that's the $1.9 trillion. 508-871-7000. What say you? So a couple other things in the news. Cancel culture is under attack. And, I didn't see that. Okay, I'm sorry. 508-871-7000. Let's go to the phones. My bad, I didn't look at the screen. Richard, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Joe. So let's talk about some of the stuff you were talking about. First of all, as far as 1.9 trillion, who cares? All it is another zero at the end of the computer. So they could pass out 50 trillion, Joe. All I have to do is add another zero to the computer.
Well,
You know,
you know what, Mark?
money out
Rich,
there,
Rich, I get that. However, that does translate to a debt and a debt service, and it does translate to the ability to impose taxes continually on us because we carry this debt. It's not like there's a constitutional necessity to balance this budget, and by carrying now a $3 trillion, $4 trillion national debt, national budget debt, we're impoverishing. We're indebting our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren.
Joe, the one thing you have to understand, we have $247 trillion of unfunded liability. So what the hell's the difference? We're broke, Joe. They can add the money here, there, everywhere. You know, if you can't get blood out of a stone. So if people don't have the money, if they can put all the... Yeah, at one time before Reagan came in, taxes were at 90%. Were you aware of that?
Yeah, but nobody paid 90%.
No, 90%.
I know, Richard, it was 90%, but nobody actually paid 90%. There were enough loopholes.
They never did, but it was as high as 90%.
Absolutely. Go back to the 60s as well, but not the point. The point is we should not be carrying this kind of thing. The money, Richard, what the money is being spent for is my problem, less than the debt. It's that why are we spending money on these pet projects? Why are we now going to spend taxpayer money, meaning, out of our pockets that we have to work hard to put this money into the system so that we can actually fly people who were deported under the Trump administration back to the United States as some kind of an apology flight and let them in there. Well, what's going on at the border right now? So you had Obama build the cages. Trump utilized the facilities built under Obama, but that was bad because it's Trump. They're cages. Now they have to open these sites up again, but they're not cages, right? They're containers, and we put up butterflies and rainbows, and we play music, so it's very humanitarian. Trump bad, Orange Man bad, anything he does is bad. Biden does the same thing in essence, but it's good because it's Joe Biden versus Trump.
Let's get back to the money, Joe. Let's get back to the money, okay? This is what counts, all right? First of all, you know, there is no income tax. It's voluntary, okay? And I'll prove it to you real quick, all right? Title 31. You write this down. I told you this months ago.
Yeah, I know. You've told me this a million times that there is no income tax.
No, but listen to this one.
Try not to pay
Title 31, Joe, USC, United States Code, Joe, all right? If you go to statute 321D2, this comes from the Secretary of the Treasury, Joe, not me now. And he says income tax, it's a gift. That's what it is. You giving money, it's a gift. What does that tell you and me, Joe?
Richard, go ahead. Do you pay your income tax?
All right.
Do you pay your income tax?
D1, D2. If you
Do you pay your income tax? Richard, it's a simple question. Do you pay your income tax?
No, I don't. Never have. I haven't paid in 26 years.
You don't pay any income tax?
No, nothing. Nothing. Zero. Why? I'll tell you something I learned 25 years ago. I was the only one out of 300 million people in the United States. I was the only one that knew this. You want me to tell you what it was?
Yeah.
1 out of 300 million. And I'm blind now. Okay? You want me to tell you what it is?
Does that play into why you don't pay taxes at all?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
You want me to tell you?
Yeah, we're waiting with bated breath.
Okay. All right. I found out on March 9th, 1999, this is how far back it goes, all right? I had my wife buy me a code book on the income tax, all right? And that little booklet that you get every year, right, you used to get. Now you have to go and get it at the library.
Yeah.
But
Richard, the timing sucks. You can hold on, but I have to take a break because we're at 30 minutes after the half hour, folks. On the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Stick with us. We'll be back with Richard and Mark on the other side. 508-871-7000.
This is Sean Burke, President of the Licensed Private Detectives Association of Massachusetts, asking you to visit us at lpdam.org when you think you need a private investigator. Don't let your emotions negatively affect your future. Get your answers through a Massachusetts licensed private investigator. Get the facts without risking your credibility by unknowingly committing a criminal offense. You need a license to perform investigations in Massachusetts. What are some types of work that requires a license? Any type of surveillance, interviewing someone for a third party, background and asset checks are just a few examples. For more on this, visit us at lpdm.org and tune into AM 830 WCRN Sunday mornings at 7:30 for case files from the LPDM or anytime at lpdmcasefiles.com.
We know why you're awake. Your child is about to get their driver's license. Levante's Auto School offers one-week driving programs to help make sure your child stays safe and focused behind the wheel.
877 drive Ed.
Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
Learn to drive safely and efficiently. Visit one of our 5 locations throughout Massachusetts. Click LevantesAutoschool.com.
Levante's Auto School shows you how to learn the rules and keep your cool. 877 drive Ed.
Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
Bam! Bam! On that 15.
Out with Joe. You're listening to Out with Joe. Out with Joe.
Slap some bacon on a biscuit and let's go.
Oh, this is the worst looking hat I ever saw. Well, you buy a hat like this, I'll bet you get a free bowl of soup, huh?
Welcome to this edition of Out with Joe, brought to you by Nothing But Cakes in White City Plaza, Shrewsbury. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. This week we thought we'd take a look at how much to tip your delivery driver during coronavirus. Extreme situations call for extreme tipping. It's the right thing to do. Tipping is an unavoidable part of U.S. culture at any time. But as we rely more on food, grocery, and restaurant delivery during the coronavirus outbreak, the amount you should be tipping is climbing. Delivery drivers put themselves at greater risk of exposure to the COVID-19 disease that so far resulted in over 362,000 confirmed cases in the U.S. alone, so that you don't have to go outdoors. They're also often collecting minimum wage without hazard pay. The suggested amount is to tip at least 20% on all takeout and delivery orders, or more to show appreciation at a time when the unemployment rate has spiked to reach an all-time high in the U.S. So how much to tip at restaurants and bars in general? Well, let's look at that first. The good news is that you're not expected to tip the same amount at a 5-star restaurant as you would when ordering at the counter. But tips are acceptable, appreciated, and even expected for a person who serves you and cleans up when you're done. The same goes for delivery and carryout. So in general, coffee shop baristas, $1 or so per drink, more for complicated orders like half-calf, no-fat soy latte with light foam and extra shot, whatever that means, or less for simple orders, hot water in a tea bag. Bartenders, $1 to $2 per drink, more for mixed drinks, less for drafts, or 20% if you're running a tab. Dine-in restaurant service, about 20%, or more for outstanding service. Buffet service, 10 to 15%, depending on how many plates, forks, and refills you go through. Fast casual counter service, up to $1 for taking your order. $2 to $5 if they bus your table or deliver your food. Restaurant carryout service, 10% more for large, complicated orders, such as baby shower or office party. Food delivery drivers, 10% or up to 20% or more during hazardous road conditions or special circumstances, such as holidays or big game night. But the last two, restaurant carryout service and food delivery drivers, it is during the COVID-19 pandemic, and they are not getting hazardous pay. And don't forget that the minimum wage for these type of employees are far less than the standard minimum wage in any given state. Other things to keep in mind when tipping: cash is preferable to credit, but giving a credit card tip is better than going short on cash. It's rude to leave intentionally small tip, like a handful of change after a $50 meal. If you have exceptionally poor service, talk to the manager. Leaving no tip might be appropriate in extreme cases. The likelihood that a server will spit into your food is relatively low, so we don't recommend tipping solely to avoid that type of behavior. Rather, tip to acknowledge the work or service that has been done. For more on dining, entertainment, and news, click outwithjoe.com and follow us on social media at OutWithJoe. Out with Joe has been brought to you by Nothing Bundt Cakes in White City Plaza in Shrewsbury, on Facebook at Nothing Bundt Cakes Shrewsbury. Have you heard of the hottest new bakery around? I know you heard about it right here. My friend Al has opened Nothing Bundt Cake in the White City Plaza in Shrewsbury. Nothing Bundt Cake is a bakery chain and is locally owned and operated by my friend Al. They have bundt cakes ranging from bite-sized to tiered, plus platters, candles, and cards. For any occasion, function, or just to have around the house or office, stop by and check them out. Everything is baked from scratch and on site. Nothing beats a sweet surprise. And until you try one of Al's bundt cakes, you haven't tried a real bundt cake. Stop by and ask for Al. Tell him Joe told you to stop by. 98 Boston Turnpike, White City Plaza near Planet Fitness, Shrewsbury, and on Facebook as well, Nothing Bundt Cake Shrewsbury.
To join the conversation, call 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Now, here's your host, Joe Mangiacotti.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the first hour of the Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Our text line, 617-297-8388, or email me at textjoeontheradio@gmail.com. It appears on the same screen. We have a guest in studio in hour 2 coming up at 7 o'clock. Lines are open and available, 508-871-7000. Before I go back to the phones on that, by the way, the FDA did grant emergency use authorization for the Johnson & Johnson, the J&J COVID-19 vaccination. This is supposed to be a little different. It's not based on the RNAR of it, but more on the traditional platform of the Ebola type of virus. So its effectiveness is somewhere around 65%. And you say, well, that seems like a big drop from the 94 or 95% of the other vaccinations. But you got to remember something, that vaccinations typically are 50% effective anyway. They're a 50-50 shot to begin with. That's why when the first ones, the Pfizer and stuff came out, and they were at 94, that was blowing everybody away. But that vaccination was a little different. But that we can talk about another time. Getting back to the phones now, the conversation our caller, Richard, went into taxes and speaking first about this $1.9 trillion, air quotes again, coronavirus package, where only 9% is actually connected to anything that's COVID relief and related. And we moved, the conversation moved to the budget. Yeah, I am concerned about the continuing debt. And yes, to a degree, it's another digit, another zero on the computer, on a piece of paper, but it does translate to the excuse for taxes, the excuse for these additional taxes that we see coming. It's got to be paid for somewhere. Then the conversation moves to not paying it. So, Richard, we can pick that up where you are, but let's just point something out. One is, I asked you prior to the break, because you said, remember, I'm blind. Well, how is that germane? And you said it had something to do with you not paying it. So first of all, we can't come out and say you don't have to pay it if the reason behind it is connected to being blind, because that's not fair to put out there into people's heads that you don't have to pay income tax because not everybody's blind. So if that's the reason connected, we'll hear why, but let's not make that blanket statement, because I'm telling you, everyone else is saying the same thing. Well, my tax bill is such and such. I don't pay it. IRS, although they are a collection agency, and they're not really government, they have the ability to slap liens on your property and your wages. So that's a very real thing to people. So we got to be careful about making a statement that you don't have to pay it, that in some code book, in some line or something, because for the majority of us, we understand the consequences of not paying our taxes. And many, many years ago, when I was a very young man, and I was dating a young lady from Chestnut Hill, her father was one of those guys. You don't have to pay. But he also lived off the grid. He relinquished his Social Security number, but he had no bank account. He was paid in cash and worked in cash. I mean, he did not have a normal life. He wasn't paying it because he went off the grid. So let me ask you, Richard, is it that you can go off the grid like this guy did? And he had trouble. He was constantly getting legal battles with the government and the IRS and so forth. And why don't you pay any income taxes? And are you telling us that everybody can? And we can't spend a lot of time on this. Just a minute, explain what it is that you meant by that.
Joe, I just want to tell you, okay? Back in 1994, that's the last time I paid federally. Well, and it's not even federal because federal is just state employees and government employees. But anyways, individual income tax. All right, that's the last time, 94, because I had money coming back. All right, and what happened is I decided that I was going to follow some gentleman, and what I did is I bought a tax code, Internal Revenue Code. All right. And what I meant by being blind, I couldn't read it, all right? But there's a little brochure you used to get. If you made $20,000, you had 3 dependents, and you had to pay this. You remember that one, right?
Yeah.
Well, what happened is I read that darn thing. Well, I didn't. My wife read it. And then there it says that we have to comply with 3 statutes. That's what Congress says you must comply, 6001, 6011, 6012. So I bought a code book, and I told my wife, I said, all right, read 6001, what Congress wants me to comply with. So she starts off, she says, well, you must keep books and records, and you must, comply with rules and regulations, and you must file a special return. I said to my wife, wait a minute. I said, read that again. So she read it again. It says that you, me, and the fence post, we have to file a special return, Joe, not a 1040, special return. So I get together with a couple of my buddies, and I told them, I said, hey, let's find out what the hell a special return is. So what they did is they went through it, and they came out and they said, hey, this is what it is. It's not entitled 26, Joe. It's entitled 27 for alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. Now, let me give you the regulations real quick. It's 19.49, 19.50, and 19.51. These are the 3 regulations for a special return. 19.5, all right, it states, Joe, if you are in the business of manufacturing alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, you must file a special return. And if you look in section 6001, 6001 says if you have to file a special return, the secretary shall serve notice on you, Joe. That means he has to send you a certified or registered letter.
All right, Richard, this is actually, it's pretty interesting, and I get that, but this isn't where we were talking about today. This would be something I think that I'd have to schedule and dedicate a segment or part of a show to the whole tax thing, because we've got lines and topics and guests coming in. So we'll save that for another day. And I would like this because this has been talked about. It's been brought up a million times to me that you can pay taxes, don't have to pay taxes, this and that. And look, I'm telling you, 90-something% of the people listening to my voice right now are rolling their eyes at this and saying, good luck with trying not to pay that taxes, because you know what? I don't feel like a lien slapped on my property or it being taken away from me, or my retirement wages being garnished, or whatever that is for that. So, Rich, we'll bring that up on another time and another dedicated to that topic. 508-871-7000. Mark, thank you for waiting. Good morning. How are you, sir? You look marvelous.
You look marvelous as well. I never met you, but I'll say this about you. You got a lot of patience. You got a lot of patience, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome to Radio Free America.
Yeah.
That's what we're on right now.
Yeah, I like to think so.
Radio Free. You ought to change the show to Radio Free America.
I know, right? Wouldn't that be a little throwback?
Yeah.
But there's truth to that, Mark. I mean, I was saying earlier about the systematic deplatforming and elimination of conservative voices, and I've asked the question, and we've talked it among ourselves here. I mean, how long before they reach down to shows like mine that they do? I mean, we've got a supportive station.
When they reinstitute the Fairness Act, remember that?
The Fairness Doctrine, yeah.
the fairness doctrine that what's his name got rid of? President
Reagan.
Reagan.
Yeah.
Ronnie Reagan got rid of it, and that opened the door for
Rush Limbaugh, for one.
For Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah.
That opened the door to his career when Ronnie Reagan got rid of the fairness doctrine.
Yeah,
now they want to bring it back.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, they
wonder
want to
why.
go beyond that, Mark. I mean, they want to actually have government agents, for lack of a better way of saying it.
Well, that leads me into the next topic.
Mhm.
Okay. The Trumpster is going to make his first public statement
Yep.
approximately 3 p.m. this afternoon at CPAC, Conservative Political Action Committee. I don't know who's going to cover it. I don't think CNN's going to cover it. Maybe they will. Maybe they will, but I highly doubt it.
Right.
Well, that being said, you have political commentators, so-called political right-wing commentators, for instance, like Sean Hannity, okay, who he's done the flip because Sean Hannity's primary concern is staying on the air, okay? And he's not the only one in that boat. You agree or disagree?
I'm sorry.
So
Do you think Sean Hannity's done a flip?
Yeah, I think he's staying away from the 300-pound gorilla in the room, which is voter fraud, which is the reason we're going to find ourselves in the pickle that we are in because it opened the door for the Biden administration. That's
okay.
what I'm coming to.
Yeah.
When he's staying away from the 300-pound gorilla in the room,
Right.
hoping that he can keep his job.
Right.
I can't make it any more simple.
Yeah, because the moment you utter those words, the voter fraud
you're in
existed.
hot water.
That's
The
it. You got a
phone's
target
ringing
on your
off the hook.
back. Yeah. Yeah.
And you're getting phone calls, and they're not good phone calls.
Yeah,
and
the
he
alg-
wants to keep his
Hey, Mark, the algorithms that Twitter and Facebook have actually have scanning for those phrases. There are phrases that those algorithms scan for, and if you put it in your post or even in the comment section, right, the computer is going to read that, and they probably have variations of it, and you get flagged. And either it's an automatic system, or I love this one, Mark. We go to a fact checkers. Who the heck are the fact checkers?
Yeah. Who's
Where'd
the
they
fact
come
checker?
from? Yeah.
Who's the fact checker? The guy who runs Twitter? The guy who runs Facebook?
Yeah. Well, they were all either editors in publications, liberal publications, or they're coming from producers from the TV side or the radio side of things. In other words, they were all part of the same hive mentality. They just get a new title and they're called fact checkers, and all they're doing is they're just doing the censoring for the original left post.
So what I believe that Trump should do is not ignore the 300-pound gorilla in the room, hoping that it will get away so he can, quote, heal the Republican Party. The Republican Party is fractured. 50% of the people at that room will be anti-Trumpers outright, and maybe less than 50% will be Trump supporters. No, he should not ignore the 300-pound gorilla in the room, hoping that it should go away. He should hit it right between the eyes, and he has the opportunity to do it at 3 o'clock this afternoon, and he would be a fool if he didn't. Now, the second thing I want to bring up, the last thing I want to bring up is that you have two bills pending in the House of Representatives. One is Bill 350, which is essentially a direct assault on the First Amendment, and you have a second pending bill, which is H.R. 127, which is a direct assault on your Second Amendment.
Yep.
And he should not ignore them either because, the mainstream media is not going to bring up either one of those two pending bills.
Right.
And if you don't believe me, anybody out there reading, go to the congressional website, look up H.R. 350 and look out H.R. 127, and you will have your eyes open as to what's coming down 6 months down the road. Have a good one, brother.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, folks, and I brought this up once before, H.R. 127 in the House to provide for the licensing of firearms and ammunition, possession and the registration of firearms, and to prohibit the possession of certain ammunition. And I told you this before. They're going to do end rounds on this, right? Coming after the ammunition and then coming after the licensing part of it. Because first we've got people to agree, common, sense. Well, it should be a licensing, right? And then they go after that by having you have to go through psychological evaluations and then being able to have to go to 3 people, in your family, friends, and business. Any one of them can derail you. Plus, if we look at the entire coronavirus situation and what's been done under the name of public safety and public health, right? These special powers have been granted to governors. This is what's going on with Cuomo, right? His own party is saying we got to take back those special powers because he's out of control. And this has been kind of a test run. And what's to say that they're not going to look at the success of running roughshod over your constitutional rights under the guise of the coronavirus 19 public health and safety and apply that to your Second Amendment and to guns and declaring that a public health and safety issue and being able to ignore the Constitution in the name of that to take your Second Amendment rights away. 508-871-7000. Joanne, thank you for waiting patiently. Good morning, dear.
Oh, good morning, Joe. Yes, well, speaking of the ballots, mail-in ballots, where are the lawsuits being brought to get rid of the mail-in ballots? Are there any being filed by the attorney generals of some of the few conservative states? I mean, where are they? Because if we don't get rid of those mail-in ballots, we don't have a prayer of taking back the House in 2 years or anything else.
Well, Joanne, and I'm going back to what Mark had said. I am hoping, and I think, and Donald Trump, when he speaks at 3:40, whatever it is going to be this afternoon, he has absolutely nothing to lose by talking about this and saying, look, this is what happened. If you haven't seen the Mike Lindell, like the 2-hour thing where he brought in, forensic accountants and broke the numbers down, the anomalies that exist. I don't care how much of a believer you are that we had a legitimate election, once you see some of those facts and the math put out, you have to question it. So now there's no reason for Donald Trump not to point this out and to say exactly what you're saying is we've got to stop the mail-in ballots. We have to stop these secretary. Clarence Thomas wrote in his dissension decision that we should have heard these cases, and it was our obligation to hear these cases, because when you have governors and secretary of states ignoring federal laws and arbitrarily changing dates and exceptions, then there's a problem. We should have a law that says that there's an automatic investigation when more ballots are returned than there are actual registered voters.
Right.
How brain dead do you have to be not to say what's going on here? How can more people vote than we have registered to vote?
Well, we all know that. Now, where are the lawsuits that will stop and turn over those laws that they put in to allow this to happen? And of course, that's what the lockdowns are all about. The Democrats are never going to let us get away from this fake virus. I mean, the virus is real, but by now they're saying that we're all 70% herd immunity has kicked in, and instead of that, I loved it. Did you hear Tucker Carlson refer to Fauci as the malignant buffoon the other day?
No.
I mean, that was so great.
Joanne, I got to tell you something. Dr. Fauci is probably a nice guy and all that. I'm not bashing him. I'm just saying he's lost credibility in my eyes, and I think in many people's eyes, because he came out, don't wear the mask. It has no purpose, no reason to wear it. Then, you got to wear a mask. Now, if one's good, two are better. In other words, he admitted to telling us not to wear their masks in the early days because he wanted to control your behavior. He didn't want people going out and buying the mask. Look, when you're a scientist and that's what you're on the pedestal for, and that's supposed to be your expertise, and you've demonstrated that you are A, very political, and B, you'll say whatever you think you need to say to manipulate us. You've lost the high ground of scientific explanation. You've lost the high ground of being the scientist in the room. Sorry.
Right.
We already know that you'll say whatever you think you can say to manipulate our behavior. You've admitted to it. You've done it. Don't talk to me about following the science. I think it's time for Fauci to just take a back seat and get out of. I mean, the worst place for you to be is between him and a camera. The guy loves it more than anybody else on TV, for crying out loud.
Yeah, and Joe, I didn't even call about all that stuff, but that is so important. That's the most important thing, getting rid of that mail-in ballot stuff. But, Joe, American Thinker, February 26th, by Monica Showalter. She wrote a wonderful article on that Syria airstrike. Now, according to this article, I'm jumping here, but Kamala Harris wasn't even in the loop. Nobody even told her before it happened. And of course,
she was pissed about that.
Yeah. Well, because, we have the Politburo in place now. The people running this country is Obama, Pelosi, and other people, maybe just those two. I don't know. But anyway, certainly not Biden or even Harris, which I was surprised. And then related to that, what was I going to say? Okay. Did you hear how Durham has quit?
All right. Durham resigned as the U.S. attorney, but he's still the special prosecutor, special investigator. Yeah, but I wouldn't panic about that because that happens or should happen to all of these U.S. attorneys. They all submit their resignation. A lot of them are just rehired again. But yeah, it's a time to make a change. It's one thing, Trump should have demanded all of these guys' resignations, as a matter of fact, when he took office in 2016.
Oh, God, yeah.
But so I wouldn't panic on that. So yeah, because he still has the special investigation role going on. But yes, as the U.S. attorney in Connecticut, he has resigned from that. But that's normal. So we shouldn't read too much into that. And we got to see what happens, going forward. But the problem is, Joanne, as well as I know, these investigations, I mean, what's happening to all this, there was so much evidence and material for Hunter Biden situation. I mean, actual tangible evidence. Could you imagine if Donald Trump Jr. did a fraction of what Hunter Biden has done? What would be going on with that guy in his life and the coverage that would have? And he's still not unentwined in his China connections. When Jen Psaki was asked about that, I think Peter Ducey did from Fox, her response is, yeah, he's working to untangle himself from his Chinese connections.
I know. What you said before, Trump should have gotten rid of... Joe, I am so angry at Trump, and I didn't stand outside every single weekend for 6 months holding a Trump sign.
That's right. You were out there. You were out there, man. You were a soldier. You were out there doing all those like East Brookfield and just everywhere, right?
Way west too. We had another group that would go up to Northampton, which was so scary. Those people there are so crazy and mean. These people are real like Antifa.
Yeah.
People up there.
Hey, Joanne, we are like 20 seconds away from 7 o'clock. You're welcome to stay on and finish your thought on the other side. But, folks, I have to take a break here.
30 seconds.
For the first hour of the Joe Mangiacotti Show Sunday edition, we'll come back with hour 2. We should be joined in studio with Deborah Drew as we move on to the Title IX stuff in the male-female competing in high school sports. And that's a difference between the pro there. 508-871-7000. Join the conversation. Thanks, Joanne. Hold on if you want to. We'll be back in a moment.
WACE Chicopee and WCRN Worcester.
7 o'clock.
Hey folks, Joe Mangiacotti from the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you, talk radio is the immune system to the partisan, bias, political rhetoric attacking us on a daily basis. Get inoculated. The Joe Mangiacotti Show is your vaccine. Join me weekend mornings, 6 to 8.
I want to tell you what Cantiani Insurance has been able to do for me and Teddy. We stopped in to see Paul Sr. and the great staff at 318 Plantation Street. They've been handling my car and business insurance for years. Teddy was making his way around the office, and they let me know. They now offer pet insurance. For a fraction of what one visit to the vet was for Teddy, they could cover him for a whole year. I know you treat your furry family members like any other family member, and as well as I do Teddy. The professional staff at Cantiani's has been providing courteous service for over 40 years, with integrity and personalized service, making sure that your insurance actually protects you and your family. With 2 locations, the 318 Plantation Street in Worcester and East Douglas Insurance Agency, located at 306 Main Street in Douglas. For home, auto, business insurance, and now pet insurance, click CantianiAgency.com or call 508-791-2088. 508-791-2088.
Golden Group Roofing is a community brand. From our Master Elite roofers and industry partners to our clients, every single person represents the Golden Group standard. We strive every day to make your home's needs a priority because Golden Group invests in you and your communities. With unbeatable craftsmanship, customer satisfaction, reasonable pricing, Golden Group Roofing stands above the rest. Having been awarded GAF Master Elite Contractor, Certainty Select Shingle Master, and GAF Energy Certified Solar, Golden Group Roofing is 100% worthy of your investment. Experience the Golden Group difference, where hands protect what matters most. Visit us at goldengrouproofing.com or call us at 508-873-1884. 508-873-1884.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system, and get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com, and like me, you'll be glad you did.
All right, folks, here we go. Hour 2 of the Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. 508-871-7000. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Lines open and available. We also have our text line, which is up and running. 617-297-8388. 617-297-8388. If you don't have the ability to text, you can email me at textjoeontheradio@gmail.com. All one word. Appears on the same screen, and we try to deal with it in real time here on the show. Don't forget, we are live streaming on the TuneIn app. Just punch in WCRN and take us anywhere. Also, tell Alexa, play WCRN. She'll do that with no questions asked, none whatsoever. And we're live streaming on our Facebook page at Joe Mangi Show. That's actually our handle for all of our social media platforms, MANGI, Joe Mangi Show. And check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Rumble, and even Parler, which is back in a limited capacity. I think it's still kind of banned on Apple and the iTunes store, but you can go to the Parler site. They went out and they stacked their servers is what they did to get back up and running. All right, as promised, joining me in studio is Deborah Drew. And Deb, first of all, good morning, Deb. And adjust your microphone, look at Cam, make sure that you want about 3 inches from your...
Is this good?
Yeah, move it in a little bit.
A little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more.
Try that. How we
Is
doing?
that good?
You got it.
Perfect.
Okay.
Excellent.
So Deb Drew,
Yes.
good morning.
Morning.
So you've actually been on before, and for those who don't know, Deb Drew is a Republican. She's in the Republican Town Committee, but you're also on the Boston Pride Board.
Yes.
You've been associated with Log Cabin before. You've been an activist. You actually take your expertise into the corporate realm.
Yes.
Okay. So anything I'm missing that you want to?
No, that's good. That's good for
Okay.
today.
So that's good enough for today. So the reason that Deb Drew is in studio is the topic was going to come up. Basically, Connecticut's Attorney General and Human Rights Agency, they're not backing down from upholding a state law that allows transgender high school girls to compete on girls' sports team. What this is so if a biological born male is transing and decides to present as a female, the rule is that they could go ahead and do that in high school sports. Now, the counter to that is that the biologically born females have 3 of them have come together and sued the Connecticut Board of Education, saying this is actually unfair because they are actually men biologically, and therefore knocking us out of titles that we would have earned otherwise. They're knocking us out of scholarships. It's affecting our collegiate education, and that shouldn't be allowed, because at that level, and I know that you have explained in other times to me that, the, say, Olympics and in professional sports level, that there are testing for the levels of testosterone and so forth in the system, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But that's not done at the high school level.
No.
It's not done at the high school level. So that a biologically born male who presents as a female in 10th or 11th and 12th grade, for all intents and purposes, still have the same level of testosterone that a 17-year-old male would have.
Not true.
Why? Explain.
So most youths, minors who are transitioning, would use what is called hormone blockers. So instead,
right, and that's been a big discussion, right? That prior to entering puberty, that these blockers are used in place so that they do not show or start puberty until they decide what they're going to do.
Yes.
Okay.
So the whole idea about the hormone blockers and not entering puberty, which means basically the muscle development and all of the secondary, what would be classified as sex characteristics, don't develop. So, I mean, if you go back into history, and this is kind of an interesting thing, is that when we had people who had certain biological conditions who couldn't accept, they were like an XXY. So kind of they were male but not male, and then their bodies couldn't accept testosterone, and so all of them developed female characteristics. So if you block puberty, it means anyone that is going through the transition, then they never develop the male characteristics, which would be the thing that everyone's, oh, well, they're men. Look at their strength. It's like, well, no, because with the blockers, they've never gone through puberty.
Okay. Now, I think that people would say in this case that not all of these females or the trans females have necessarily done the blockers. So some of them, in other words, they have the ability to just simply present as female without any obligation or testing as to whether they have done the blockers or where their testosterone levels are. So in the high school level, which let's face it, that's where your collegiate aspirations are starting. Heck, for some of our, I know some of my nieces and nephews started planning their college in 8th and 9th grade, excuse me, easily. And these students who are expecting to get scholarships and certain titles within the state to, apply to college and make them so they want a well-rounded application. We all know how that works. They're saying that there's no requirement that those trans females who are presenting to play in this high school level are necessarily on the blockers. So their testosterone levels could be exactly what they would be for a 17-year-old male.
So maybe we'll just take a step back.
Yeah.
Earlier in the conversation, you said, professional sports. Professional sports defined as someone gets paid to play the sports. So is high school a professional sports?
No, but we're talking about high school,
So we'll start with it's not a professional sport.
No.
So why do we have sports programs in our, 1st through 12th grade? Do we have them so that people can get paid playing them? No, it's not a professional sport.
But I think we outlined that they're there to get titles.
But that's the thing. Is it really, do we have sports programs in our schools so people can win titles?
To a degree, yeah.
No.
No.
Sports programs in our schools were designed to teach sportsmanship, to teach people how to be part of the community, to be a member of the community, to
but the
play on
reality
teams.
of it is...
But reality doesn't mean correct. So what I'm saying is so here's the thing. The reality is a bunch of crazy people stormed the White House. Does that make it correct? No, it didn't. So, or whatever, or
that's
the Capitol
convoluted in the argument.
So, but listen to me very carefully. So our high school programs are not designed to be professional. Our high school programs are designed to teach people sportsmanship, to be able to do these things. Awards are all about people
let's
there.
Take a pause on what you've said so far. All right, because I think there's a disconnect as to that. Yes, that's true.
Right.
That sports is to teach all that, but in the reality of it is that sports in high school are setting these kids up for the rest of their lives.
No.
It is in some cases.
So here it is. If you go back and you look at the statistics, how many high school winners actually end up going to the Olympics and those type of things?
Oh, see, but that's not the question.
But what you're saying is that if for some reason someone doesn't get a blue ribbon in 12th grade, that their whole life is going to be destroyed. So, so isn't that what you're basically saying?
No,
that
I'm saying that
ribbon,
there are some people whose lives will be thrown off track.
No.
Yes.
No.
I know what I'm saying.
No. Here. Look at it. Are you literally telling me and everyone who's listening that if someone doesn't get a blue ribbon in 12th grade, that everything that they are is gone?
That's not what I said.
Well, what did you say?
I said that the argument that these girls have is that they are losing out on titles and
a blue ribbon.
Wait a minute. On titles and meets and so forth that would
blue ribbon.
It's
a blue ribbon.
You are, but you're diminishing this.
I am.
You're
because
mocking it and you're diminishing it.
I am diminishing it because it's a blue ribbon. It's a little trophy that they put on the wall.
Wait, screw the blue ribbon.
Go ahead.
A title.
Right?
If you
on
are
a blue ribbon. Come on, it's a blue ribbon.
You're making a mockery of the discussion.
I am mocking it.
Okay?
I am mocking it because.
But let me finish the sentence. Have
these three girls actually lost anything at this point?
Yes, they have.
So what did they lose?
So let's recap this,
ribbon?
folks.
They didn't get a blue
wait a minute.
ribbon.
I got to set this up. So
Go
these
ahead.
3 Connecticut high school girls, represented by their moms because they are minors and they are only in high school. So the suit has been filed over the policy which allows transgender athletes to participate in the high school sports based on their gender identity.
So did they race against these people?
You have to let me set up the story.
Well,
because we got
just
listeners.
Go.
We got listeners who need to understand what this is.
Yeah, go ahead.
So these three students, the mothers representing them because they're minors, have sued to file a lawsuit against the Connecticut Intercollegiate Athletics Conference, the CIAC. Policy is in violation of Title IX Act, which bars discrimination on the basis of sex. So the all the mocking and diminishing with the blue ribbon aside, their argument is that we are being told that we got to compete against biological males who blockers, who aren't blocked, whose testosterone levels and muscle mass is exactly where, say, a 17-year-old is supposed to be. Therefore, we're losing the title, which allows us to move on to the next level, which allows us to get scholarships, which allows us to take what would have been our natural course of action in our collegiate education and wherever that led, because we're unfairly being forced to participate in a sport against males. So the argument they're having is they may present as females, but their bodies are still males, and it's undue and unfair. That's their argument.
So have any of these three women actually competed against one of these transgender women?
Yes, they have. They've lost. That's why they're suing. They've
Are
lost.
you sure?
Stacey, in a statement after the lawsuit policy, why did they not?
What I'm going to say is I have never seen anything in these records where they actually ran on a course, on a track, against one of these individuals that they're complaining about. So which blue ribbon did they lose? And not only that, but when you get scholarships, scholarships aren't about how many track meets you win. Scholarships are about your entire program, about your grades and about your community
but let's face
activism.
It, if you have a state title in the 10 meter or track ribbon. Or a blue ribbon.
A blue ribbon.
We'll go along with that. Fine, a blue ribbon. Mm-hmm. That's a huge part of an athletic scholarship.
It's not.
Because
if you think about it, if a person doesn't know how to lose, then how can they be part of a team? And our educational program from 1st through 12th grade aren't supposed to be teaching children how to win. Everyone knows how to win. They're supposed to be teaching sportsmanship. They're supposed to be teaching our children how to lose and to get up and to train harder. You know, it's one of these things is if you're competing against someone who's better than you, you get stronger, you get better. Why would you look at someone who can push you, who makes you have to work harder, as being your enemy? That's the person that you want to chase.
So
That's
your
the
argument on that is simply that if they're competing against what is in essence a biological male, that's going to force them to be stronger and compete harder.
Yeah, why not? I mean, isn't that what we're supposed to be teaching our children in 1st through 12th grade?
But why do we?
They're not professionals. Why
were sports separated into female and male teams anyway then?
Well, because historically men thought women were weak and were going to get hurt and that they should stay home and cook and have babies. And it was only that after Title IX it said, yeah, you know what, you misogynistic goofballs, women can play sports too. Have you ever played field hockey with a women's field hockey team?
No.
I'm going to tell you what. If
I'd
you
be
think,
afraid to.
And you know what? I'm going to bet you there are a lot of high school boys who would go out, because I know a few people who tried. But when they compete and they work hard, it's like they win. I mean, because they're teams, because they love the sport, and they do it not because they want to get a blue ribbon, but because they love the sport. And that's what we're supposed to be teaching our children. What we're now doing is taking an adult issue that really is being propagated by a bunch of propaganda, and we're trying to use our children as tools. If we go back in the civil rights movement, when we didn't want to have segregated bathrooms or segregated restaurants, it was all about protecting the children from being attacked by people of color.
So that's another discussion.
But if you look at the images here, high school is not a professional sport. I'm sorry.
I get it's not a professional sport, but Deb,
if you're going to tell me that
you're talking about these kids' future.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about a single blue ribbon. Right?
Well,
you're going to tell me
first
that.
of all, but it's a very important blue ribbon.
No,
Deb.
it's not.
Yeah, it is.
It is
You're
not.
diminishing the importance of this.
No, go and look. I mean, because isn't it the cultural classic example of the high school football quarterback whose entire life peaked in high school when he threw the winning touchdown?
Yeah.
And I mean, and they're sitting at the bar, fat
20 years
belly,
later, right,
and still talking about that, and never did anything with their life.
The,
so you're going to tell me
Married
that,
to Men, right? Who played the husband there?
Right. But isn't that our classic stereotype that they peaked in high school? What you're supposed to be learning in high school is the resilience. You know how you end up being a winner in college? You end up being a winner by losing and pushing yourself to go.
Yeah.
And
good enough. But we got to slide this in, folks. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. What say you? 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Deb Drew is our in-studio guest. We're talking about, in Connecticut, specifically the lawsuit that has been brought by 3 high school born females, biologically born females. Their mothers, of course, represent them as minors in accordance with Title IX. And it's saying that it's unfair to have them compete against what is, in essence, biological men or males because they're in the high school level. So they're not at the point where, their testosterone levels are checked before competition or anything. If they're transgender females. Therefore, they're presenting as females, but they have the body mass and testosterone of a male.
It's assumed.
It's assumed, yeah.
It's assumed.
Because
you don't know if they are or not on blockers.
That's the point of the argument, is that if they have the suit is, if we got to compete against a male presenting as a female, then we're competing against the testosterone level and the muscle mass of a biological male. And now the question becomes in, because Title IX, and let us digress just for a second, Deb, because maybe we should give a little bit of the history of the 1964 civil rights legislation and the fact that the word sex was included in that legislation. And because of that, it's been responsible for a lot of legislation and court decisions, and I think very much coming down in opposite of what the senator who slid that word in was hoping to accomplish.
Oh yeah, the individual was a southern I believe Democrat who was trying to tank the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and he absolutely believed that if he put an amendment in that added the word sex as a protected category, that all of his misogynistic male counterparts in Congress would say, oh, no, women can't be equal to us, and would have voted against it. Unfortunately, he miscalculated.
Yeah, he really thought that would tank the whole thing, folks. That was the purpose of ensuring that was included. It wasn't in the original draft that was put in there.
Yes, and so to destroy the bill. But when you look at it, almost all of the major decisions in reference to discrimination have all been around the subjugation of women and all about those types of things. And so what it was is that it was such a powerful thing. So when they did Title IX, they said, too, well, you can't, discriminate against someone based on sex. Because it used to be that, in high school, they had sports and boys could play in sports, but girls could not. They didn't have girls' sports. They had, I think, cheerleading and stuff like that. But girls were like, well, I want to play basketball. I want to play field hockey. I want to, run track and field. I want to do these things. And it was like, no, women don't do that. So then the rule is that, no, you have to fund programs to allow people to compete.
Fairness is fairness.
So the whole thing, though, about from 1st through 12th grade is to teach our children how to live in our society. And one of the most important things to teach our children is how to lose. I mean, did you ever do Cub Scouts? Did you ever do the Boy Scout Cub Scout?
I was a Boy Scout. I was an explorer.
Do you remember the Pinewood Derby?
Yes.
It's the Pinewood Derby.
The Pinewood Derby was cutthroat, folks, right? Because
right. So they bring 200 boys together.
Oh yeah, we had dads who were drilling holes in the front and putting lead into the nose of the Pinewood Derby.
But do you know what the centerpiece of the Pinewood Derby was? Was to take a bunch of young boys who will someday be young men and leaders in our society.
And teach them to lose.
Mm-hmm. And it's so critical that people need to learn how to lose. And when you look at that
I agree
humility,
with that, which I think we've lost a lot.
And so it's one of these things. If you go back, and I mean, especially if you go back to people who are like, well, why does every kid have to get a blue ribbon? Why does every kid have to get? And then so what we now have are 3 mothers who have decided that their daughters should have gotten a blue ribbon, and now they're going to say that no, high school sports are all about scholarship and money. It's a profession, and so my daughters should be able to get that money. And I'm going to tell you, is that if I was a coach and I was looking at recruiting someone, I would look at recruiting somebody who kept getting better. And when I looked at them, I'd say, oh, okay, so in their freshman year, these were their numbers, and then their numbers got better, and their numbers got better, and their numbers got better. Because you know what? If you have somebody who peaked
Yeah.
and their numbers never changed,
Right.
then they're not getting better. Because when you go to college, see, I'm lucky. I have 3 sisters, and one of my sisters did track and field in high school and was like the number one. You know, she was a jackrabbit, but she was small. You know, and stuff like that. And she said, I went to college, and my freshman year, I went to go to that thing, and I walked in there, and the girls that I competed with at high school,
Yeah.
when I went to my freshman year and I went there, it was like, I was walking the track. I had some best times in high school. When I went there, I was walking the track. When you get to college, you're not talking about people who are average human bodies. You're talking about people who are out there who have striven and driven. And you know what, quite honestly, if you're not willing to push yourself hard enough to compete with anyone who goes onto the track with you, then you haven't learned what sportsmanship is.
All right, so let me, again, folks, Deb Drew is our guest in studio. The topic of conversation on this portion of the Joe Mangiacotti Show is specifically the lawsuit of 3 high school females in Connecticut suing the CIAC. A hearing was held on Friday on a motion to dismiss the lawsuit that looks at to ban transgender athletes from participating in girls' high school sports. Interesting, it doesn't go the other way.
I know, well, you know, especially if the young girl, who biologically born young girl who's becoming trans male, if they take testosterone, they can play.
Yeah. We'll talk. So let me finish saying. So the lawsuit was filed last year by several cisgender runners. Cisgender, just simply means born in the
expressing the gender that they were born,
That's it.
That they were identified with at birth.
And I know
it's not an insult.
I'm not insulting anybody's intelligence. It's just that a lot of people, when they hear cisgender, they hear asexual, they hear sexual, fluid. They don't know what we're talking about. So I just want to make sure that you understand that cisgender just simply means you present in the sex that you were born in. So the cisgender runners who allegedly they missed out. And this is the essence of the argument, the suit. They missed out on opportunities for titles and scholarships by having to compete against transgender athletes, in this case, transgender females. When you talk about transgender, the sex that you put after it is what they're transitioning to. So when somebody says transgender male or transgender female, if they say transgender female, it's biologically born male transing to female. Just so everybody understands the path of our conversation, Deb. Throughout, and this is from one of the comments, one of the Selena Soul. She said, throughout my 4 years in high school, I was forced to compete against biological males. Girls across Connecticut and New England all knew the outcome of our races long before the start, and it was extremely demoralizing. All girls deserve the chance to compete on a level playing field, but cisgender girls should not be sidelined by their own sport. That's some of the statements. So yes, there is money involved in the sense of a scholarship, but their argument is that there is the male team and the female team, and those that are actually biological males should not be able to compete on the arena in the playing field of the females, going back to the level playing field. That's why there are two teams, a male team and a female team. I understand your argument about losing, but shouldn't they lose to a female that's better than them? And in other words, at that level, and I know we're in a sensitive area, Deb, because we're talking about transgender and presenting as, and we have learned that we respect the transgender and we respect what people identify as. But when you get down to it, a 16, 17-year-old male who's presenting themselves as a female but has done nothing to actually medically trans yet does have the testosterone level in the muscle mass of a 16 or 17-year-old male. And it is, by the start of that, uneven. And I'm going to have to ask for your explanation and response to that after the break, because I can't control the time. So I set it up. That's where we'll pick it up on the other side, folks. I'm going to take a break. It's break. Yeah, broke. Take a break for, what do we got here? Case files from the LPDAM, and we'll be back on the other side on the Joe Mangiacotti Show, 508-871-7000.
Good morning and welcome to Case Files from the LPDAM, where we take a look at actual cases, the law, and lessons from the findings, and where we share the experiences of the experts of the Private Detectives Association of Massachusetts. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and joining us is Sean Burke, president of the LPDAM and resident manager of Courtside Legal Investigation. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Joe.
Well, welcome back to Case Files.
I'd love to be here.
Well, I want to get into this because I got to tell you something. The golf world really was struck with some bad news this week with the news of Tiger Woods getting into that single car accident, and it seems he was running late to meet Drew Brees for a tee time and to do that video that he's been working on. His car rolled over and went 30 to 50 feet off of the road.
Joe, it is sad to hear of Tiger Woods' unfortunate accident this week. He sustained a significant leg injury that may affect his ability to perform at the high level expected of today's athlete. Tiger has been known for his grit and work ethic to succeed at golf's highest levels. He has been a joy to watch, and I wish him the best in his recovery. As with most serious car crashes, there will be an investigation into how it occurred. Tiger's accident will be no exception. The police will recreate the accident through the evidence found on scene and a series of mathematical equations. We do know there were no skid marks, which usually demonstrates the driver's knowledge of an impending accident. It is possible Tiger was distracted or dozed off. One of the first things an accident reconstructionist will do is confirm the brakes were working and there was no foul play involving them. A professional investigator will also look at other variables such as Tiger's phone to see if he was texting. He was late for a tee time and may have been updating the other members of his party. They will also look into medications Tiger may have been prescribed. Remember, he has had several surgeries, and much of these medications warn their use could impair your ability to drive a vehicle. A common cause to single car accidents often involves speed, especially when it occurs in good weather conditions. At lpdm.org, we know how to do an accident reconstruction and do it independently of law enforcement. A professional LPDM member does his or her work so it can stand up in court. This is extremely important if criminal charges result from an accident.
Hopefully it turns out to be something simple, and he was just late for tee time. We have all experienced that in one capacity or another. Fortunately, no one else was hurt in this situation.
You're right, Joe. Fortunately, nobody else was injured. I know I've been late a time or two and just been lucky that nothing bad happened. The most intriguing piece of this accident, in my opinion, is why doesn't he have a driver? It seems to make sense, and it would be a tax deduction for him and his brand. I say this all the time when I hear of a professional athlete getting into a car accident. They need to protect themselves better. The NFL offers a program, but many players do not take advantage of it. At LPDM, some of our members offer executive protection driving services, and it is a viable way for an executive, professional athlete, or Hollywood star to be on time safely. At lpdm.org, our members are up to date on today's activities. Remember, you're in good hands with LPDM.
Well, you certainly are. And I agree 100% because this isn't the first time Tiger has had a problem driving his own car, Sean.
It isn't, Joe, and I believe the last time may have been prescribed medicines.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us for Case Files from the LPDAM. Join us here each week on WCRN 8:30 a.m. every Sunday morning and anytime at lpdamcasefiles.com. And visit us at lpdam.org, and you can find LPDAM on Facebook and Twitter at PI in Mass and anytime at 800-955-6274. For Sean Burke, I'm Joe Mangiacotti.
To join the conversation, call 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Now, here's your host, Joe Mangiacotti.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the second hour, the final segment of the Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN, our affiliate stations as well. Don't forget, we're streaming live on the TuneIn app. Just punch in WCRN and you can take us anywhere. Also, tell Alexa to play WCRN. She'll do that, no questions asked. She just does it. That's the way she is. You can also check us out on our Facebook page, Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I. The audio is streaming there, which is the important thing. Several ways to listen to the show. Follow us on our social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. 508-871-7000 is how you reach into the studio for two-way talk and discussion. Our guest in studio is Deb Drew. You can also text us at 617-297-83 617-297-8388, or you can email us at textjoeintheradio@gmail.com. 315 texter says, hey, males should not compete in female sports. However, Deborah Drew's argument is spot on. Thank you for that, 315. And you can do the same thing. I mean, if some of you have called and haven't come on, the lines are open. You're welcome to join the conversation at 508-871-7000. Now, what we're talking about, and let's set this up again, is that there are 3 females in Connecticut who, during their high school career, have been required because of Title IX, and the decision was made that biologically born males who are transing to female and present themselves as female can compete as females in the high school sports. There's no distinction made whether they have to have had the blockers done or not. So this means they could be competing against biologically born men who have the muscle mass and the testosterone levels of the 16, 17-year-old male, and would be competing otherwise on the males team. So the argument that they have is that throughout their high school career, they were forced to compete against biological males. Girls across Connecticut and New England all knew the outcome of our races before the start, and it was extremely demoralizing, according to one of the plaintiffs, is the word I was looking for. All girls deserve the chance to compete on a level playing field, but cisgender girls should not be sidelined by their own sport, another plaintiff said. So that's the question here. And Deb's argument, look, there's part of this, competing in sports is being a gracious loser, learning how to lose. The Pinewood Derby was a good example of that. I was crushed for a couple of years.
Stood in the corner and cried.
No, I wasn't that crushed.
And the best parents were the one where the mom stayed away and the dad walked over and put his hand on the shoulder of his young son and said, "I've lost too. But you know what?
Yeah.
It's going to be tomorrow. We're going to get up and we're going to do more stuff."
And let me tell you this, because my dad was there with me at the Pinewood Derby and all that, and we knew, right? We already knew going in who was probably going to win, because there was always that one kid who had that engineerish, geeky dad. No offense, Deb's an engineer.
Yes, who cheated.
Well, yeah. I mean, his car had axle grease on the lead in the nose.
He didn't know that it would have been so much better for his son to have lost. So let's go back to the core question. It's like women shouldn't have to compete against men, right? But here's the trick to it. When a woman goes into the workforce, are we going to tell companies that women should only be judged for promotion against women? No, they're not.
No.
Our society is based on all of us. So if a woman can learn how to lose, but get up the next day and fight even harder. I mean, you go into the workplace and most women are like, well, yeah, everyone on the board of the company are all, men. And we could also name some other demographics that seem to be the only thing in the board members. And everyone's like, well, women don't get that position. And even if you look in most corporations, if you look at the numbers and basically, because I am an engineer. I've run engineering departments and I've hired engineers. And I will hire engineers, both men and women, out of school, and they will both start with the same entry level salary. And then male engineer plays golf with the guys that are from the other department, and the first raises come out, and the company says, "Oh, maximum average raise has to be 3%." So, guy who goes playing golf with all the other guys gets 4%. Young lady gets 2%, and in 5 years, her salary is 80% of what the male's is, because it's compounding. So now, if she doesn't know how to be able to go, yeah, well, you know what? I'm not going to let this crush me. I'm going to go off and get a job at another company and make a lot more money, or I'm going to start my own business. She learned how to lose and not give up. And that's what we're supposed to be teaching our children. In high school, you're supposed to learn how to get knocked down and get up and go, you know what? I'm going to work harder. Or, you know what? I'm going to go someplace where I can succeed and I can make it myself. It's that whole thing about everyone has to have a blue ribbon because we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. How many times did you win yesterday, Joe? How many times did you win yesterday?
Deb, when I open my eyes and put my feet on the ground,
Okay,
it's a win for me.
That is a win. That is a win. But once that happened, did you make the red light? Did somebody pass you? If we don't learn, if we don't teach our children how to be losers and yet still get up and move, that's our country. Send us your huddled masses. Send us all the people that you spit upon. And we'll come over here, and we did better than anyone else in the world. This is America. America is about saying, "Yeah, I don't care.
But
I don't
America
care who
is
you
also,
are.
Wait a minute.
I'm gonna
America
fuck."
is also about equality in the level playing field. And if, in essence, a biological male is able to compete against biological females at the high school level, things do change in the college level, certainly in the Olympic level.
Well, and all of those have programs where they specifically test to make sure that the appropriate hormones are in. But high school is not a professional sport.
Exactly. But
and
it's
high
also
school is about teaching people how to be resilient.
But it's not just that. It is about having, but it is about having a level playing field.
If you have 1,000 people in a high school and 53% of them are women, how many of them are the best track person? Out of the 500 women in there, how many of them is the best?
The best is only going to be one.
It's only going to be one.
Right.
Right. So
that's
one person.
Mm-hmm.
So here's that. That means 529 young women are getting the training and the knowledge that our public schools are about. They're teaching them how to say, "Yep, I lost this race, but I'm going to get up tomorrow morning. I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to keep increasing my performance."
But we got to go back to, and this is the basis of equality in the United States. Is in a conservative view is that we all have a level playing field, and the outcome should not be guaranteed.
So
everybody goes.
High school, what you are learning in high school sports is how to be a good sportsman, how to push yourself hard, and how to lose with grace. So everyone has a level playing field.
Well,
Getting
no,
the blue ribbon.
But you're not. The argument here is
the blue ribbon
it's not.
is not the objective of high school sports.
But if you're playing
I've listened
field,
to
Deb,
so many people say, "Oh, well, why does all these kids that we just hired out, all these millennials, they think they should get a blue ribbon just for showing up at work?"
Yeah.
So now we have 3 mothers who have decided that their daughters didn't get the blue ribbon, and so the helicopter
Yeah, but
parent,
that's not what
the
they're arguing.
exactly what they're arguing.
No, they're saying that the playing field is not level.
Wipe away the thing, okay? Because I'm going to tell you what. If they actually competed against some of the freshman college girls, if one of them, say, had difficulty in first grade, maybe had to be held back, and they were running in high school, oh, God, yeah, they would lose to them too. And then what are they going to say? Well, they were a year older than us. And so we lost. I'm like going, okay, so what? So work harder. And next year when you go to college,
that's not the case.
Well, no. So what the case here is the moms are mad that the little girls didn't get their blue ribbon at the Pinewood Derby. And that's the whole thing. And you know what? I'm sorry, but if you really think that not winning a blue ribbon in high school is going to change your entire life, then your life really isn't that broad.
Well,
because
there
if
you
you
go.
think, see, this is it. You really think that something that happens to high school, if you don't get that one little blue ribbon, that now you're going to be destitute. And
Again,
if that is the only thing that changed your life course.
Yeah, but again, we're talking about a level playing field, and it's not just one blue ribbon. These girls their case is addressing the span of their high school years in sports, and that the playing field wasn't level.
So again, I go back.
Yeah.
Did they ever actually run on the same track with these people?
Yes.
No. What they're saying is that every girl in there already knew the outcome of the race. That's not saying that's like not saying that they ever actually were on the track with them. So I mean, and this is the thing is that we can see, how can you say I was injured because someone three miles away did something? You know what? That would be just the same as is that my family's being destroyed because there's a gay couple next door. And that's not the truth. You know what? And again, you're supposed to learn how to lose. And it's not about whether you lost. It's about whether you showed continued development. And I'm sorry, but in college sports, that's highly competitive, and they're probably not going to do anything.
But again, we're talking about these students who wanted to get to the college level, and they're saying that they're starting from an unlevel playing field. Now, the hearing that I made reference to earlier came after the Biden administration withdrew the government support for the lawsuit. See, under the previous administration, the Justice Department and the Education Department's Office of Civil Rights agreed with the plaintiffs that the Connecticut's policy did violate Title IX. So now there's a reversal. So this is why, again, this was started under the Trump administration. Now the Biden administration is basically reversing it, as they are with almost everything that Trump put in. The judge did not make the decision, by the way, on Friday. He says it's going to take a few weeks for this to come out. So this is the, what say you, 508-871-7000. Again, we've got some text that came in and said, hey, men should not be, and I think they're saying in the text, they're not getting specific, but biological males should not be competing in female sports, but yet they agree with your argument about the losing, I'm assuming, because they didn't clarify that. And I agree 100%. I've always been consistent in that argument, is that everybody shouldn't get a blue ribbon, that it's not an automatic, that you need to lose to understand how life works. You're not going to be protected and coddled when you get out into the real world, but hey, maybe you are, depending what company you go to work for.
Well,
you might have safe spaces in every timeout rooms. I don't know.
So,
right?
It depends on it. And I'm going to say is that I believe that when you talk about equality and equity, it means that everybody should have the same opportunity to fail. And because only in that will you be able to determine your true character. And see, it's one of these kind of things. That's why when you get to college and you go to professional sports, they have specific regulations in reference to years of hormone therapy and all of those things.
Yeah.
So that, because we know that there is a big difference between a 17-year-old person and an 18-year-old person. And we know that 1 year there is a major change. And that's why when you get into, like I said, my sister was the fastest little, girl in our high school. And when she went to college, she said, I went to the coach after the third practice and said, I can't even wash these people's shoes. These ladies that I'm competing against are so fast. And that type of thing. And
so she was the big fish in the small pond, and she was nothing but a guppy. Yeah,
this is the thing. Is if a helicopter mom truly believes that their daughter's life is destroyed because of a blue ribbon, it's not the daughter's problem, it's the mom's problem. Because the mom should be teaching that daughter how to fight and to continue to push herself, because that daughter's going to end up in a workplace that's going to be run by men, and she's going to need to learn how to fight for her position, not by throwing the men out, but by pushing herself.
Got it. All right. 508-871-7000, final segment here, the Joe Mangiacotti Show Sunday edition. Good talk, Deb. Good points. But before we wrap up today, let's comment on a couple other things out there. You good for that? So
throw it at me. Let's see
Deb, you're on the Republican Town Committee.
Yes.
Boston Pride Board.
Yes.
I've been associated with Log Cabin, the Lincoln Log Cabin. You are a Republican, and you are an expert and even teach transgender rights or LGBTQ rights and for corporations.
Yes.
So you know from what you talk, but there's some things out there, and I'd like to get your take on some of this stuff. Muppets. Yay. Muppets are now racial, right? Now they come out, and Disney is streaming the Muppets, and I mean, they were huge when we were kids, right? We love all the Muppets from Sesame Street, Kermit and Miss Piggy, the love affair of a lifetime. And all of a sudden now they've decided that 16 episodes now carry a warning that they could be considered racial content. Johnny Cash is singing a song with the Confederate flag in the background is one example. Are the Muppets racist? What do you think? I mean,
so, and I'm gonna answer with the path that you're probably gonna freak out about.
Okay,
but there's systemic racism in our country, and so Johnny Cash and the guy that helps the Muppet to come alive? Are they as individuals racist? No. But is our society racist? Yeah, because our society truly believed that it was acceptable to in a children. Well, actually, Muppets aren't really a children's show; they're more an adult show.
Yeah.
So in a television show to put up as a
prop,
a
Confederate
flag that basically represented a bunch of people that wanted to keep slavery.
Got it. Okay.
And so that was a societal racism,
Right.
Because.
Right.
No one thought there was anything wrong with it.
But again, we're judging that on today's awakeness and so
and
forth.
Why not?
You know.
I mean, because the thing is as we grow and we learn. Look, you know what? When my father went to school and became an engineer, he knew certain things, and when I went to school and became an engineer, I knew more things. And so, why, as a society, when we look at societal issues, when we start to realize that some of these images oppress people and cause them to feel uncomfortable, that we shouldn't say, oh, wow, man, you know what? I never thought of that.
Yeah. I think that Disney was brilliant in doing this because I think they're going to drive their streaming of Muppets through the roof.
Well,
so great marketing on Disney's part.
But also, hey, look at this. This is what the most important thing is. You and I are talking
We're
about
talking about it.
We're talking about it. And I think that it's so important for us to recognize that historically, it wasn't the singer and it wasn't the Muppet. It was the societal racism, the built-in racism that just was the undercurrent.
It's just that nobody even gave literally a second thought about the flag, right?
Except unless you happen to be the descendant of a slave, and when you saw that, you knew exactly what it meant.
You did. But what I'm saying is when they were doing this together, I mean, think about back with the Dukes of Hazzard,
Oh
right?
my God! Or Archie Bunker.
And Archie Bunker. The Dukes of Hazzard actually, the Confederate flag wasn't actually that. You know, all of a sudden the Dukes of Hazzard with the General Lee and the Confederate flag, the flag actually went up in use after that TV show.
Well, because that was they were propagating the false image that the Confederate flag represented, you know, being a rebel and you know, and like being free. When the Confederate flag only represents slavery.
Right. Hasbro comes out first, Mr. Potato Head. They're going to drop that. It's going to be more gender, but they backtracked. And they said, well...
Well, no, they didn't backtrack. They clarified.
Well, they clarified. They clarified.
Because the Mr. Potato
It's just going to be Potato Head. Yeah,
right. Because why do I need a line of toys that have to be gendered?
Well, I never thought, right, because you had the option of putting whatever you wanted on the potato.
So why would I put on the box Mr. when the potato head?
Well, then they came
anything?
out with Mrs.
Right.
Mrs.
But why?
Head.
They could just call him Potato Head.
You could do the parts anyway. So,
So are you saying something out there,
Yeah,
Joe?
they were transgender. They were transgender toys.
Oh, my God.
Long before our time.
American
All right, we got to go to the
collapsed.
phones. I do want to, and we'll talk about Coca-Cola's first, their obligation to take that LinkedIn course about having to be less white. But we'll be back in a minute. We got to go to the phones. 508-871-7000. Joe in Worcester first. Joe, good morning. Thanks for joining us on the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Deb Drew is in studio with us. What's on your mind?
Yes, I was listening to Deb, and I agree with her, because I don't know what the outcome of this Title IX issue will be, but once you get into the real world and you become more mature, say one of these girls wants to be a firefighter. We're going to have a separate set of standards for them because of the fact that they're of the female gender, or they want to be a state officer. We either have a different set of standards,
right?
Are we going to have them say, okay, so-and-so has to carry an oxygen tank or heavy equipment? So there should be a separate set of standards.
I want my firefighter to have to carry my big butt, regardless of whether it's a male or female. And if their requirement is to deadlift 140 pounds up a flight on a ladder, it doesn't matter what their gender is.
So I love this example because my brother went to West Point and retired a couple of years ago as a colonel from the Army. But his wife, when they were stationed down in Texas, was feeling a little bored, and she said, "Oh, I'm going to go take the firefighter school."
Mm-hmm.
And she went down there, and they were like going, and she's like, "No, I'm going to take the school." And she worked out, and she did the thing, and she climbed up the ladder, and she put the 150-pound dummy on her shoulder and walked down the ladder with it and carried them out. She ran the hose.
She passed the test.
She passed the test. And she said, with all of the gear on, she said, I wanted to do it. And, and I realized that I might find that my physical capability couldn't do it, but she pushed herself and she worked hard.
Yeah.
And so I think that's always an
I agree
excellent
100%
example.
when it comes to firefighters. I don't want my firefighters, my police officers, my doctors, or anybody else being treated differently because of their gender. Whatever the threshold is the threshold. And if you can meet it, I don't care what clothing you wear or what you present yourself or what you call yourself, as long as you meet, the board test for a doctor, you meet the physical requirements for a firefighter, you pass the academy and shooting requirements for a police officer, irrelevant of your gender.
Right, and everybody can. All you have to do is you just have to keep working.
So, Joe, high school, Connecticut, do you think these girls have a point that they're only in high school, they want to compete on the girls' team, and they shouldn't have to compete against a biological male?
If it was 1960 and Leave It to Beaver was still on the air, and there are ultra-conservatives in control of our country, yes, they have a point. But it's 2021. It's a different time frame. We have a different set of cultural norms in our society now. The world is changing. They have to get over it.
That's right. All right, Joe, thank you very much for your call. Good point. Great call. David in Baltimore, good morning. Welcome to the Joe Mangiacotti Show. You're on with myself and Deb Drew. And are you listening on TuneIn or Facebook?
Actually, I'm on Facebook,
Okay.
but I know your time is a very little time. So I want to say that, a wonderful show. And so unfortunately, I hadn't been feeling too well, so I turned on your show a little late. I woke up a little too early in the middle of the night, and then by 6 o'clock I kind of dozed off a little bit. but this, to me, a wonderful guest. I disagreed with a number of things I heard from her, but it shows, I think, the truth of the old saying that the devil is in the details. And unfortunately, sometimes the devil is in the details of the details, which further shows how the first America, the United States, the first of the modern free world, took on such a heavy task, and as it gets older, the challenges become even heavier. In disagreeing with this guest, I want to say, now when I was learning how to be an athlete, playing rugby, soccer, whatever in high school, I was being taught how to lose, not how to win. I beg to differ. Okay, we cannot. If I wanted to learn how to lose, I just sit at home and lose. Okay, I think
that's not really losing. That's quitting.
Okay, actually, a word that I learned I got scared when I learned it in the States. It was a word that was in the early 70s was a very bad word to quit. To be called a quitter was the worst thing to be called. But then also one of the things that I was asked, at 22, the first thing, in the first hour of landing at a college in the States, I was asked actually if I was a homosexual, and I didn't know what a homosexual was. Okay. First of all, I was asked if I was gay. I said, "Yeah, it's a beautiful day. I'm
happy as heck." Yeah,
it's a great day. Okay, but then when they explained to me what it was, by a very rude person, I asked him, "Why would I want to?" I was 22 and I was still, not interested in dating because I was waiting until I got married to begin. I was ready to get married to begin to date, which touches on the fact that my parents had sat me down the way home. They were worried. They said, "Are you okay? They have not been seen of all our 14 children. They have not seen you. They have not given us any problems with girls, boys, and so on."
Yeah.
But that was what my Christian biblical.
Hey, Dave, real quick, where does your family hail from originally?
From the belly button of Africa, I say, because all the borders are all messed up there and so on and so on. But that area.
Can I ask you a quick question? Question? You talked about when you were in school and you were learning how to win. So if the first game that you played, you won, would you have practiced harder the next day?
Actually, in my particular case, the devil is in the details. Actually, it told me that I could actually win. So I now was encouraged to actually, continue to yes.
All right, go ahead, yeah, because we got 40 seconds.
Just my question is, losing losing teaches you to push yourself.
It does. Dave, thank you for the call. I'm sorry we're out of time. Great call. Thank you for listening and using the Facebook app down here in Baltimore. That's how it's done, folks. That will do it for this week's Out with Joe. Joe Mangiacotti Show. I'll be back Thursday with Jerry Doherty for Political Thursday at 11 a.m. Listen to Jerry Monday through Friday, 11 to 12 noon here on AM 830 WCRN. Again, folks, thank you, Deb Drew, for coming in. Thank you, guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. That will wrap it up for me. I'm Joe Mangiacotti.
WACE Chicopee.